The movie begins with the 1990 release of Nelson Mandela from 26-year imprisonment on Robben Island, for planning acts of sabotage against the South African state. This event marks the end of apartheid in South Africa, leading to a new election in which Mandela wins by a wide margin. In his inaugural speech, Mandela pledges to unite the people of South Africa, who have long been divided along racial lines, between the white Afrikaners and the black tribes, including the Zulu, Xhosa, and Bapedi. Mandela's victory brings about a sense of joy among the black population, but many white Afrikaners and Zulu feel that they are losing control of the country, highlighted by a scene where Mandela is driven down a road, with poor black children playing soccer on one side, and white Afrikaners playing rugby on the other. The coach of the national team, the Springboks, tells his team to remember the day as the day the country went downhill. Jason Chabalala, Mandela's head of security, approaches Mandela with a request regarding the team's security. He asks for more personnel to protect the president, as the current team consists of only 4 black members. Mandela responds by hiring 4 white former special branch members, with Etienne Fader as their leader. Initially, the two groups clash due to deeply rooted racial tensions, but they eventually reconcile, and work to overcome their differences. Chabalala realizes that he must cooperate with the new hires, and tells his black colleagues, particularly Moons Amy, that they must keep a close eye on the white members while working together. During his initial days in office, tension is high as most of the former president's staff, who are mostly Afrikaners, fear that Mandela will dismiss them. They start preparing to leave their jobs, anticipating the worst. Witnessing this, Mandela convenes a conference and delivers an unplanned speech, assuring his staff that he won't terminate the contract of anyone who previously worked for the old regime. Instead, he urges them to collaborate and strive towards achieving racial equality in South Africa. The speech is well received, with no objections raised. Mandela begins a routine of taking walks before sunrise with 2 security personnel. During one of these walks, a blue van suddenly speeds towards him, causing security to fear an attack. However, it turns out to be a harmless newspaper delivery. The story then introduces Francois Pienaar, who is the current captain of the South African rugby team, the Springboks. The team is composed mainly of white players, with only one black member, Chester, who is unable to participate in upcoming games due to a hamstring injury. Due to the history of apartheid, many black South Africans view the Springbok name, logo, and colors as symbols of racial injustice, and refuse to support them. Instead, they support England when they play against the Springboks. With less than a year to go until the Rugby World Cup in 1995, which South Africa is hosting, the Springboks are struggling to win games, and are expected to lose early in the tournament, to Australia. After learning that the coach of the Springboks has been replaced, Mandela contemplates how he can bring together the people of South Africa and overcome their differences. He sees rugby as a means to achieve this goal. As many Afrikaners fear losing their identity, Mandela decides to use the Springbok name to unite them. He opposes the unanimous vote of the Sports Commission to change the team name to the Proteas. Instead, he plans to use the upcoming World Cup as an example of how South Africa can move beyond its apartheid past. Mandela makes a personal visit to the commission, in order to persuade them to keep the Springbok name and colors. He believes that by doing so, he can reach out to Afrikaners who feel that he is trying to eliminate their presence in South Africa. However, the commission is not receptive to his proposal, and he only manages to acquire 13 votes before leaving. Despite this, Mandela views it as progress, as these votes were enough to maintain the Springbok name. His assistant, Mazibuko, disagrees and believes that Mandela should focus on more pressing matters than rugby. This sentiment is echoed by others in the administration. Nevertheless, Mandela persists with his plans, which include inviting Francois for tea. An Afrikaner member of the security team asks Francois about the Springboks' chances in the upcoming Rugby World Cup. Despite Francois assuring him that they will give their best effort, the Afrikaner remains skeptical and spreads his pessimism to the rest of the team. During a conversation in his office with Francois, Mandela discusses the importance of inspiration and motivation under extreme pressure. He shares a poem that helped him stay hopeful during his imprisonment, and Francois mentions a song that the team sings before every game. Without directly asking, Mandela hints to Francois that a win for the Springboks could have a significant impact on South Africa, by bringing together Afrikaners and the other tribes in the country. Francois attempts to convey Mandela's message of unity by giving his team copies of the South African national anthem, and urging them to learn and sing it properly. However, most of the team shows no interest, and crumples up their copies. Francois then backtracks, and makes it optional. Nevertheless, Mandela orders the team to take breaks from training and go to the townships to teach rugby to the locals. At first, only Chester, the team's sole black player, is greeted by the township kids, but eventually, the entire team joins in, helping to promote rugby and national pride to a new generation, regardless of their ancestry. Francois emphasizes to his team that both life and the game involve constant change, and their team is no exception. Mandela is discovered unconscious outside his home, and his doctor advises him to rest completely to preserve his strength. However, Mary keeps his schedule open so he can follow the rugby tournament. The Springboks surprise everyone by defeating Australia, and as they continue to win more games, their support among all South Africans grows, propelling them further in the tournament. After a match, Francois suggests taking a break, and they travel to Robben Island, where Mandela was once imprisoned. Inside Mandela's former cell, Francois is shocked at its small size, barely spanning his arms with a sheet on the floor for sleeping. In a voiceover, the poem that Mandela shared with Francois is recited, as the team looks out over the place where prisoners were once forced to break rocks, as part of their labor while they were imprisoned. On the final day, before the match, the Springboks go for an early morning run, and are joined by both white and black South Africans who cheer them on for victory. Security personnel are anxious, as this will be the most exposed moment for Mandela since he took office. Extra sharpshooters are positioned on adjacent rooftops, while the rest of the security team take their posts inside the stadium. A jet flies low over the stadium, with its captain announcing full responsibility for his actions to the co-captain, which makes some people think that he might be planning a terrorist attack. However, the jet displays the words, "Go Springboks," painted underneath, and the crowd responds with loud cheers. The final game of the tournament features the unbeaten New Zealand, All Blacks, against the Springboks, with a packed stadium of 62,000 fans in attendance. Chester has recovered from his injury and can now play. New Zealand has dominated other teams in the tournament, winning by an average of 20 points, making South Africa the underdog. Nevertheless, the Springboks are determined to give their best effort. The game is closely contested, with neither team gaining a decisive advantage. South Africa trails behind for most of the game, responding with points every time New Zealand scores a goal for 3 points. However, as time runs out, the Springboks manage to outscore New Zealand by 3 points, clinching a thrilling 15-12 victory. The streets of South Africa are filled with joy and celebration as the Springboks are cheered on by people of all ancestries, after the trophy presentation. Despite Mandela's security team struggling to make their way through the crowd, Mandela tells them not to hurry. The pride in their nation, if only momentarily, appears to have been somewhat restored in the eyes of themselves and the rest of the world. And that's all for this recap. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.